This is the Radical Rant Podcast. This is the Radical Rant Podcast for July the 31st of 2019. Hey guys, Adam aka CSRadical here with you. Wow, what 7 days does to a person. Holy shit. So I got a lot to talk about. Obviously, I said last week that I was going to a convention, a local convention called ConBravo, and I have a lot to go through with that experience because that was my favorite convention that I've been to, period, and for many different reasons, most that I will obviously disclose here. So we got a bunch of other things to talk about too as well along with that, but I am going to start with the convention, but we will also be talking about Doom on the Switch, because, you know, there was a little bit of fun about that. How somehow Ultimate Team is now making more money than the actual game itself is for FIFA. The silliness that is the Fire Emblem directors having no idea how they got successful here in the West. PS4 officially shipping 100 million units worldwide, which will be a very quick one, obviously. And then lastly, we are going to have a bit of an update on Kyoto Animation. And you know what? Let's just do that out of the way right now. Obviously, those who know by now, you've heard about what happened to Kyoto Animation, the arson that has now killed 35 people. The number has gone up to 35. A couple of names have been released. They should not have been. The intention was to not release any names until a proper inquiry had been finished. But unfortunately, it seems like the Japanese media had hounded enough families to get the names out, at least for a few of them. I think like 4 or 5 got named, which is a shame because I would not wish that kind of stuff on a family, but you know, it is what it is. But the good thing that has come out at the very least, and it's such a minor thing in retrospective because 35 people lost their lives, maybe more might as this goes. Actually, 2 things. One, the employees that have survived have gone back to work. I'm actually surprised it was that soon. I would have assumed it'd be a lot longer, but if they were ready to go back to work, they were ready to go back to work. So hopefully they can get back into the swing of things at some point and be able to recover. But speaking of recovering, they were able to recover the external server for a lot of their digital stuff, and it was found to be basically externally unscathed, and they were able to salvage basically everything from that. So while all the physical stuff was lost, it seems like anything digitally they are going to be able to save, which is something in terms of good news that I guess is as best as good news as you're going to get at this point. So at least for them, not everything is lost, but 35 very important people are lost regardless. So it's still an absolute disaster for them. But, you know, time eventually heals all wounds, and we'll see what happens down the line. But, you know, for now, there's still a lot of healing left to be done. So anyways, I don't want to get too depressing at the beginning of this, but I felt like I had to get that over with. So I said last week, and I think I should said it for a couple of weeks now, I was going to a convention called ConBravo, which is local to Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I've gone for now my 6th year. This was my 5th year altogether doing panels. Because the way that they run it there, it's not just guests do all the stuff. No, they leave quite a lot of openings for just random people, especially because it's a small convention anyway. But you just sign up, you say, here's the panel I like to do, and if they think it's worth going after, they choose you. And I've been doing panels for 5 years. I've done a couple of Final Fantasy-based panels when 15 was still on its way. But now I do 3 panels consistently. I've done I've done in order a yearly anime panel. I almost said 2019. I'm like, yeah, I've done a 2019 panel for 4 years. I do an annual anime panel, and I've done that for 4 years now. I do an annual gaming panel, and I've done that for 3 years. And now I'm doing an annual wrestling panel that has gone for 2. So now I need to find something silly to start doing annually as well. Maybe it's just, you know, harem anime or something funny like that. I have thought about it. I just haven't put hammer to steel on that. But regardless, this year was very peculiar at the very beginning. For those who have gone to ConBravo for a number of years, have noticed that this year was very uneventful in terms of the people they announced. I mean, they got Ian Sinclair, which is a which is a famous anime dub actor, but I wasn't too familiar with the guy. But in terms of all their other guests, they were all people that, if you've been to the convention a couple of times, you've probably seen. Now, in the closing ceremonies, they commented saying their actual goal, because this was their 10th anniversary, was to get all their staples in the convention all at the same time. So anybody that people traditionally really like seeing and were consistently coming back, they try to get them all together for one convention, just so it could be like a big celebration of their best people. So a lot of people were very familiar, and it is what it is. I was still excited because I get to run 3 panels on my own, so I've already got my own shit to worry about. So as the Friday began, things were always chill on the Friday, because Friday is the concert day. So I show up, we do a quick walk around in the marketplace, and then we go up to the main hall where the concert is, and Adriana Figueroa and Family Jules were our 2 performers, and as usual, as they did the year before, and I think Jules has actually been doing it for a couple of years now, they were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I never stop enjoying those 2, because they're a great mix, because you got Adriana, who's a lot more chill and is a very beautiful singer. Like, just an unreal voice. I can understand why. When I was in the line for registration, jeez. English is difficult today for me. I don't know what's going on. I think it's the heat. Pre-registration on the Thursday, there were a couple of guys, I could hear in the background, like, talking a little bit weird about Adriana. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're getting to the creepy stage. But with her voice, I can kind of guess. She's almost like a fucking siren with how wonderfully she sings. So I can kind of see it. But then Jules comes out and just plays heavy metal with his guitar and goes fucking crazy, and it's a nice way to cap things off. And it was a good Friday. It was very quick. I didn't spend too much time. We just chilled and had a blast, and that was it. And then the Saturday comes along, and I get my first panel in, and that's my gaming panel. And for the last couple of years, it's been getting better and better, and this year looked like it was going to. And realistically, the conversations we did have, I think it was better. But at the same time, and this is something that almost happens every panel, but this was a much more extreme case than usual. So at a lot of these, what they call community panels, which are fan-run panels, you always get that one person that really tries to take over the conversation. And I'm not talking a panelist, I'm talking a person sitting in the crowd. Now, I know that because it's a community panel, I'm nobody special. I mean, I have 175 subscribers at the time I'm recording this, so I'm not exactly pretending like I'm some big shot that should be speaking the entire time. But at the same time, if you're sitting in the crowd, and this is a thing where we're supposed to be opening up to everybody, and you're trying to keep the conversation going to whatever you want, this is kind of failing. And one guy in particular, was doing this quite a bit. And not only was this person very much trying to take over the conversation, this person was also trying to direct the conversation into things outside of just video games, and so much trying to go to drama between like YouTubers and gaming personalities. And I'm just sitting there being like, man, I've only got an hour for this thing. I don't got time to talk about drama shit about people I don't know. Like, the guy's talking about Chris Chan, and I haven't heard that name in such a long time, but anytime I hear that name, I know it's something stupid. So I'm like, dude, I don't want to fucking know what Chris Chan's doing these days. I want to know what fucking cool video games are going on and what people are looking forward to and stuff like that. But instead, it was trying to turn into a drama thing. And I'm just like, man, me and a couple of friends that were on the panel, we handled it as best we could, and we just kept trying to field questions from other people. I think a lot of people fell silent because they didn't really know how to react, because some people were trying to talk about Pokemon, and the guy's like, well, we're not going to talk about that subject. And I'm like, who the fuck are you to tell us that? It was kind of dumb. But despite that, I still enjoyed the panel. It was just one of those things that's like, man, this could have been so good if everybody was just cooperating. And it is what it is. But we finished that, go have some good food, get some good Japanese food, and then, again, another look in the marketplace. The marketplace, now that I mention it, is... I think now that I'm 6 years in, I'm at a point that I'm realizing how dumb it is to spend so much money at these convention marketplaces. Because when you really think about it, you're never getting a sale on these deals. Or you're never getting a deal with the stuff that you buy. It's always you're paying face value for it. Generally speaking, unless you go at the very last minute on the Sunday where they're just trying to clear stuff out so they don't have to carry so much back to the car. But this year I spent only $20 in the entire marketplace, and it wasn't even for me. It was a gift for my girlfriend. They had a bunch of wind-up music boxes, and they had a pink Sailor Moon one, and she's an absolute Sailor Moon fan, so it was a no-brainer to get her that. But otherwise, I didn't buy anything. In fact, I paid more money at the board game cafe we went to early on the Friday. I ended up getting Street Fighter, the trading or the deck building game, for half off. So I got it, instead of for $50, it was for $25. I'm like, screw it, why not? I spent more money on that than I did for anything in the marketplace, because if I want to buy anything, it's going to cost me more than $20. Like, even artwork, it's like, man, like, I get it. You put a lot of work into these things, but I can't justify that cost anymore. Here I was talking recently about how I can't justify $300 for a Switch. What makes you think I'm going to be able to justify $20 for an 8x11 piece of art? It's one of those things where it's like, man, I'd love to support more, but I kind of need some extra money going in, and that ain't happening right now. But we get to the next thing that we do, and it was pretty fun. Like, they had an anime opening Jeopardy. So it was basically you pick your questions, but instead of a question, it's just playing the theme, and you gotta answer it. I was impressed how many I actually A, knew, and then B, was able to name. Now, the problem was, as a lot of anime fans know, some titles are so stupidly long that it's hard to remember them, because they all like start to blend after a while. So, for example, one of the qualifiers that they played was Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, and I knew it the second the first note started. I knew what song it was, and I could tell you the fucking name of the band that played it and the name of the fucking song, but I couldn't name the anime. That's how it is sometimes. But by the end of it, they only played one full game, so it was it would have been, what's it? I'm doing the math in my head. So it would have been 30. It would have been 30 questions. I was able to name 11 or able to pinpoint 11 of them and actually name 6, which isn't terrible. All things considered, I thought it would have been a lot worse, because I figured they'd be like, here's all these mainstream ones. And I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Don't ask me what the Attack on Titan Season 3 theme is. I don't fucking watch that. But instead, there was a lot more niche stuff that I was able to get. So it was kind of cool to at least feel like I was a part of it. And then after that, my girlfriend and I split off, and we went to Geek Trivia while our other friends did some other stuff. And it was a phone-based trivia game, and we both got our asses kicked, because I am a vat of useless knowledge, but I am not a vat of massive amounts of useless knowledge. So I barely placed I placed like 54 out of 76, I think it was, and my girlfriend placed like low 60s, because she's not nearly as knowledgeable about a lot of the nerd culture stuff that I am. And even then, like, I still couldn't put anything together. There were so many things. It's like TV shows. I'm like, fuck, I don't watch Netflix. Super old video games that you never played. I'm like, fuck, I don't know that either. So there was a lot of them that I'm like, man, I can't do anything with this shit. But it was still fun. It's fun to... I will never stop loving trivia, because it just makes my brain go. And that's all I really care about. But after that, did we do anything before my wrestling panel? I'm trying to think now. I don't think we did. I think it was just food time and messing around. I honestly can't remember if there was anything I'd seen after that. So let's just move on to that. So I did my second annual wrestling panel. Last year, we got only 6 people because we were in a rough spot. Sometimes with newer topics, they'll schedule you in a busier spot, because they figure not too many people are gonna show up anyway. So they put you in a slot where it's already not going to change much of anything, and that was the case. So this year, they did the exact same thing and put us in a really bad spot, and we, funnily enough, got 6 people again. So at least it was a couple of different people, but either way, it was still 6 people. I feel bad, because it's one of those things you're like, man, I just want this to be bigger and better. But I also have to remind myself that in a convention that is already primed for gaming, for anime, for Dungeons and Dragons, for like tabletop stuff, anything of that sort, wrestling is going to be very low on the tier. So when you have other panels out there, regardless of whether they're like big names or not, if you have ones that are on video games, anime, tabletop, any of that stuff, they're already going to pick you or pick those above my wrestling thing, because while they might be fans of wrestling, they're probably bigger fans of anime. Or they're probably bigger fans of gaming. Or they're probably bigger with cosplay than they are with wrestling. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that, like, I understood. And either way, with 6 people in the crowd, it was 6 engaging people in the crowd, and we had a fucking blast shooting the shit about wrestling for an hour. So it still ended up being a fantastic end to the night. And as I was driving home with my girlfriend, I said, hey, it's not going to be my favorite convention ever that I've gone with ConBravo, because ConBravo is basically the only one I go to because I don't like going to the bigger ones. A, because I don't like being around that many people. And B, I hate standing in line. And at bigger conventions, you just wait even longer in lines, and I would want to fucking shoot myself. So, not interested. So for my 6th year at ConBravo, I'm like, you know what, this might be 2 or 3. Like, I've still had a fantastic time because I'm not frantically trying to go to a bunch of things. I'm just casually enjoying myself. I'm not worrying about anything. And I've gotten a lot more comfortable. You know, I'm talking with guys like, say, the 8-Bit Drummer who I got to see in person this year, and I just talked to him like he was just a guy that I'd just been hanging out with before. You know, instead of the first year I ever went, and I was talking to guys like Movie Bob and Gaijin Goomba and being so fucking nervous. Even though I've podcasted for a long time and gotten used to speaking, just being faced with people that I held in adulation, it just didn't work that way. Whereas now, I can meet relatively anybody and just be super cool about it, because there's no point in freaking out about it, because most of these people don't think they're that big a deal either. So I've kind of learned to take that in stride and not go nearly as crazy as I watch people do all the time, which is just sometimes creepy, and then sometimes just like, man, just relax, it's fine. So just this year I was enjoying it more because I wasn't all cooped up in my head trying to, you know, move things around and make it work. So I was going into Sunday just being like, this is just pretty good, all it is. And then Sunday rolls around and and the only thing I honestly did Sunday, I literally walked in the marketplace for a few minutes just to kill time, talked with the panel staff for about 45 minutes waiting for my panel, and had a blast with them, and then just waited for my panel to start. And as soon as it was done, I was gone. I went home, and that was my weekend, because I had to play softball because I'm a dumbass and you know, have to play running sports 2 games in a row back to back after I've just been standing and walking consistently for 3 days straight. That's how dumb I am. But my anime panel I have been doing for 4 years now, all 4 years, and I'm not sure how this got pulled off. But as I jokingly said with the panel's crew, I haven't paid this guy, and he still shows up. There's a YouTuber that is very well known for anime reviews and the like, and his name is Arcada, or better known as Glass Reflection on YouTube. And I have had this guy on my panel. He's gracefully joined me for 4 years now. And it's been a funny journey with him, because the first time I ever met him, I thought he hated the shit out of me, because it seemed like he was being very cynical. It seemed like he was kind of just more like poking, like not even poking fun, but almost like looking at me being like, this is the stuff you're watching. And I left that first time being very, not like disillusioned or like disenchanted with what I was doing. I was more just like, that sucks. I thought this would have been better with that guy. I mean, I still had fun, but man, I think this could have been something more. The second year rolls around, and the same person that was doing the panel with me gets this guy to do it again. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. So this is going to be awkward. And we do it again, and it was a lot better. And this time I had the chance to really talk with him beforehand and talk with him after. And I honestly can't remember if it was before or after the panel that I said this to him. I think it might have been after, but regardless. I said at one point to him, like, I'm really glad that you came back to do another one with us, because I honestly got the feeling, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I really think that we didn't hit it off very well the first time around. And he said, what made you think that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just felt like there wasn't anything there. He's like, man. And he just turned around. He's like, man, like, I had a blast doing that with you guys. I'm always happy to do these kind of things. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And I was really happy about that. It was a lot of relief off my shoulders. So that when the third year came around, it was fantastic. And they brought a couple of other anime YouTubers on with them called Anime Uproar. And my favorite moment in a convention ever was when one guy asked the question, why are we talking about the best anime of the entire year, which was Isekai with Smartphone? And I got up, high-fived this fan, and then watched them all immediately just be like, dude, you need to leave. And I had to do a fake walk of shame out of the room, and then I come back in and everything's cool. But 3 years of that, and I was a lot happier going in. The Anime Uproar guys, oddly enough, were there this year as well, and I just didn't know until the last minute, so I didn't have a chance to ask them. But I did manage to get a hold of Arcada again, and he was kind enough to do a fourth. And I'm already just really excited because, you know, I'm starting to feel like there's at least like a camaraderie with him. And we meet up about 15 minutes before the panel. We go into the room, sit down, door shut, so it's just the two of us in there, and we're talking about things because it's the first time it's ever just the two of us. The usual third wasn't able to make it that year. And of course, we talked about KyoAni a lot in that time frame. And it was around that time that I'm just thinking, like, wow, I'm really just having like a very heart-to-heart conversation with the guy, like almost like he's a friend. And that was really, really helping me. And as soon as the doors opened, I don't know what... It's almost like the first time when I was learning to play guitar as a kid, around 15, 16, when I got introduced to the rock band program that my music school did. Actually, I think it was more like 14, 15, but that doesn't really matter. And for the first time I ever stood on stage with a group of people who were now friends of mine because we hung around together enough in this program, that the second we started playing songs, I felt like just something snapped in me, and I started playing out of my mind, and I had a different personality on stage. And it would be like that when I kept going in the program, started my own punk band around the end of high school. I felt a different person come out. And in this case with Arcada in this fourth panel, I don't know how to necessarily explain it, but I feel like I totally shifted gears in how I approached how I talked at the panel. For whatever reason, everything was hitting. The shows that we talked about were definitely getting people's attention. The jokes, that every single joke that I made got not just like titters, it got laughs. And I'm sitting there being like, holy shit, this is fucking going well. This is going really well. And we keep going. There's a person or two that are trying to take center stage in the crowd a little bit, but it's not nearly as heavy as it was on my gaming panel. And Tristan and I are both very good at handling it because there's a lot more people in the crowd as well that want to talk, so it's very easy just to point to them and be like, okay, you go. And we don't have to necessarily keep pointing to the same guy who wants to spend 5 minutes talking about two shows, because we only have an hour. We got to fit as much as we can in. And it went by so fast. I didn't even get a chance to talk about Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, which was one of my favorite shows the entire year. But we were going in backwards order from this current season to... I think we ended up partially into spring. Like, I think the last thing we talked about was that time I got reincarnated by a slime. Or that time I got reincarnated as a slime, I should say. So we didn't get to everything. And it was such a whirlwind. And by the time that it was over... one thing had already happened before that. At some point during the panel, when we were introducing each other, somebody actually asked me to clarify what my Twitter handle and my YouTube account was, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Somebody's taking interest in what I'm doing. But whatever, it's always happened. Somebody usually asks for, like, I always introduce my handle, and maybe I get like one follow and it's fine, but no big deal. And generally speaking, those people don't stay because I'm usually not active enough. This time was different. It still wasn't like a bunch of people, because I mean the room only had like maybe 60, 70 people in it. But a few people asked for my Twitter handle again just to be sure. And then something really cool happened. So a girl walks up to me and says, "Thank you, I really enjoyed this. Can I show you something?" And I'm like, "Sure, what?" And she opens her little book that she had with her, and she fucking drew both Arcada and me. And it goes very understated, but that's the first time I've ever had something you could qualify as fan art drawn of me. And I tried to be as composed as I could and not freak out too much, but in my head I'm thinking, holy fuck, I cannot believe that. And even now, like, this person now follows me on Twitter, I follow her back, we've talked on about a couple of things, and it's such a strange feeling to have something like that happen. I've been doing this entire game for, God, on and off 10 years. If I was smart enough, I should have saved the first video I ever made and just left it on my channel as a reference point. But I've constantly deleted stuff off this channel as I've tried to take certain things out. Like, for example, some of the first things I ever made on YouTube were gameplay videos, and I think they're all absolute trash. So I pretty much deleted them all because I didn't want this channel to be for people to expect that I was going to do gameplay, because I've realized, at least at this point in time, and still to this day, I don't feel like I'm very good for that, because I spend more time quietly playing because I'm concentrating rather than, being funny. I can do it if I'm talking with other people, but if it's just me on my own, you wouldn't see me doing it that much. Otherwise, it's very forced, and that's why I kind of got rid of them. But I've been doing either videos, podcasts, any of that stuff for probably a decade now, if not longer. And there's been a lot of breaks. There's been several times where I've wanted to quit altogether. And I'm going to be completely honest. Before I started doing this podcast again, and now we're 10 episodes in, which honestly, if you asked me 2 months ago if I thought I would get 10 episodes of something in, I would have been like, nah. Actually, sorry, 3 months ago, because technically I'm 2.5 in. I legit thought about completely shutting off all channels of this. Not making videos, not posting on Twitter, not writing anything, nothing. And not because I didn't want to do it, but because I just felt like the time wasn't there anymore. And I wanted to spend more time doing the things that I enjoyed rather than the things that... I still enjoy doing this stuff. And especially now it's still a hobby, but it's becoming something that I'm actually really excited to do again. And I thought about quitting just because I'm like, man, if I can just cut a few hours extra out of my week, I can just use these to just relax and enjoy a couple more things. And I'm still trying to add things into my schedule, like trying to exercise more and do shit like that. And I've still got friends that want to hang out with me and all these things. It's so difficult with the time that I have, especially because I work 10-hour shifts. My time is so limited. And I posted an article yesterday, and one of the things I said is, man, I also wish I had more time, but right now, because my balconies are being constructed at my apartment here, they finally finished my side. And actually, I think I mentioned this on the podcast, they left a bunch of debris on the balcony. They actually cleaned that off. They didn't clean my fucking windows, so I still got all this concrete shit on my windows that I got to clean at some point. But they're on the other side now, but the noise is still there. You can't avoid it. So until this whole thing is done, the chances of me recording on my Wednesday off, or even on Saturdays or Sundays, mornings and afternoons, are up in the air, because they may be here, and if it's not raining, which causes them to not show up, I'm got far less and less time to record stuff. So there are a lot of things I want to do, and I can't do them. I'll talk about it more at the end, because I want to just finish this ConBravo stuff. But there are things I want to do, and I just know I can't because I don't have the extra recording time, because I do want to do things like have my exercise. I play Rec League Sports. I do want to play video games and watch anime once in a while. Not to mention, I try to at least get 6-7 hours of sleep every day. So, I could totally accomplish what I want to do, but I'd have to be getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep every day. And I don't want to do that because I kind of care about my health a little bit. But like I said, I really wanted to quit at one point. And the reason I restarted the podcast is because there were just a few things that I really wanted to talk about. And I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just give it one more good try, really go at it. And, if I don't like it by the time we get to a certain point, whatever that may be, then maybe that's it. Maybe that really is it. And so far, so good. I might have struggled to find topics to talk about every week and get a podcast that can barely just go over half an hour, but it is what it is, right? It's still something that I do. And I'm not wanting to do it. The 1 week that I didn't have a podcast up was not because I didn't want to do it. It's because I literally didn't have time to record it. Because the one day I usually record on, Tuesday night, I was watching Spider-Man because my friends roped me into doing it. If I had the choice, I would have watched it on a different night. And then what happened after that is the Wednesday, couldn't record in the day because of the construction, and I couldn't record at night because I was playing softball. Thursday, was working late, and then also went out with friends that night. So by the time it rolled down around to Friday, I'm like, fuck it, what's the point? I've already taken up a half a week of news. I might as well just push it all to the next Tuesday, and that's what I did. So it's not like I'm not enjoying this. I am, and I certainly am. So for going all the way back after that bit of a rant to the convention and this person that drew fan art of me, it's that already was kind of like, holy crap, that's really cool, and that really kind of inspired me to be like, man, I need to do more stuff. And like I said, I'll talk about some of the things that I want to do towards the end of the podcast, but it definitely triggered something in me to want to make more. And then I can't remember if it was the same day. I think it was. I got home maybe an hour after the panel tops, and I was just sitting around, and all of a sudden, I went in and thanked people. I was starting to just look around on Twitter. All of a sudden, I find that Arcada's followed me on Twitter. Now, the guy has over 40,000 followers on Twitter. He follows less than 550 people. I know it's still a lot of people, but for Tristan to consider me worth following on social media is, regardless of how he views it, to me it's an absolute privilege and an honor to have someone that I actually really hold in high regard to look at me in a similar way and think that I'm somebody that he'd like to see on his feet. And I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, Tristan, but I don't know if I'll ever remember to say this to you in person, so I'm going to say it now because I may not think about it again, but you have no idea how much that meant to me, because that's just something that doesn't happen to me. And for somebody who has gone back and forth doing this stuff, whether it's YouTube, podcasting, blogging, now running panels at conventions. I wish I could do more. I don't have the money to go in and put myself in a hotel out in, say, London, Ontario, because I'm certainly not going to drive 2-3 hours back and forth every day. This is my one spot, because it's the one that I can access, and I don't want to do the big ones. So for the little that I do, and regardless of the fact that we've done this 4 times in a row, man, like the fact that you were willing to follow me, it seems so trivial, but for me it really does mean the world, because I've spent so much time staring at nothing, staring at no progress. And even though as I'm recording this, and since the convention, I've only had like maybe a few new subscribers on YouTube and maybe 5 followers on Twitter, to you and the person who drew this fan art of me, those aren't 2 followers on Twitter to me. Those are like having 1,000 each, because those are 2 things that I've never had before. I've never had fan art of me, and I've never had somebody who I hold in that level of high regard as you, Tristan, following me like this, because it's not something that's ever happened. I've had like random accounts that follow me back, but I feel like it's more like you follow me, I'll follow you back kind of deal. So I don't look at it the same way. But for you, Tristan, it means everything to me, because I almost take that as like a passing grade, as something to be like, you know what, you're doing good. I think you're worth this. And that means everything to me. And I cannot thank you enough, honestly, for really lighting a fire under me. And the same goes to the person that wrote the fan art. I apologize right now for forgetting what your Twitter handle was, but you know exactly who you are if you're listening to this. So what's happening now is, after thinking that this convention was going to be top 3, it's now my best convention, because not because of the amount of fun I have, but because of how much this really does mean to me personally. Because I feel like it's the point that I can look at and be like, you know what, I think I've actually grown. And I don't know when I'll do this, but I do want to make a video, and it might even turn to a series down the line, where I just talk about kind of things that as we grow up, we say and think. And the one that I want to talk about at some point in a different video is, I wish I was the person that I was today. And that's the kind of subject I want to talk about, because the way that I am now, I wish I was 10 years ago. Because Lord knows what I would have accomplished had I been like this now, or had I been like this before. So, one more time, thank you so much, Tristan, and thank you so much to the girl who drew that art of me, because as small as it may seem to you, it meant the most to me, that in terms of anything I've ever done in my career, doing what honestly is still to this day a hobby for me, but it means so much in the end. So yeah, that was my ConBravo. Really enjoyed myself. I can't wait for next year already, and it's 360 days away, basically. It's a full year away. So, at this point, we're 35 minutes in. I could probably do all of this in like 10 minutes now, so we'll just get to it as much as we can, and we'll see where it goes from here, because every time I think it's going to be short, it ends up being longer. The first thing I wanted to talk about, apparently, I didn't know about this until yesterday when I was reading all the news stories, because I hadn't been paying attention to anything for the entire weekend. Doom quietly got released on Switch. And I'm not talking the newest one. I'm talking Doom 1, 2, and 3. And apparently, the original... I don't know if it was all three, but I did see that the original requires an online connection to Bethesda.net, which is fucking hysterical, because it's an old PC game from the 90s. I don't see what an internet connection means. So it was kind of funny. And it brings that always online argument that we used to have when the Xbox One originally was like, it's going to be no DRM, you're going to have to always be online, blah, 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 like whatever. It's just funny that something so old, something so ancient, and I mean, I know I'm saying that being 90s isn't really that ancient, it's not like we're playing Pong, but it's an old fucking game, all things considered, and why does it need an online connection? It's just one of those stupid things, and they're like, oh, we're gonna take this out now. They're trying to make it seem like it was an accident. It's like, come on, guys. Like, it's a stupid decision that you made and it backfired. Like, just deal with it. It's just one of those things. It's like, fuck. Like, if Square Enix ever was like, we're re-releasing Final Fantasy 2, and it's the complete, like, unalterated version, and we're putting it on PS4, but you gotta be signed in. You have to be online to do this. Although, I guess with digital copies, it kind of makes sense that way. I think you have to be online if you buy it, if it's a digital copy. So, you know what? Never mind. It's kind of a bad example, but either way, it's to log into a specific account. So if, like, Square had their own system and was like, you have to log in to our Square Enix account just to start this game up, be like, no, motherfucker. Like, why? What does it matter? It's an old game that's not going to do anything. Are you putting DLC in this freaking game now? You better not be. That's the only thing I think of when I think of Doom having an online connection required. Is like, oh, are you trying to sell me something with this too now? But, you know, it's just a dumb little story that I saw. I kind of had a bit of a chuckle at it. Speaking of dumb stories about spending, so officially now, and I don't know if this was recent or if it's something that's been going on for a while, but I saw an article today. As I'm looking at the article now, it's done Thursday on the July the 25th. This is on metro.co.uk. The story is Ultimate Team microtransactions now make more money than FIFA itself. I'm not going to go too deep into the article, but basically the one key fact is that the Ultimate Team microtransactions make up 28% of all of EA's sales, which is more than FIFA itself. So if there's any idea that EA is really riding hard and really wants to defend these loot boxes and gambling boxes that they are selling to their customers, that would tell you why. 28%. And I don't know if it's just FIFA Ultimate Team or if it's all of Ultimate Team. So we're including Madden, NHL, all that. Like, if it's all of it, that's still pretty bad. If it's just FIFA, and I'm inclined to think it's all of the games combined with Ultimate Team, but if it really is just FIFA, that is fucking gross. Oh, that is absolutely gross. I'm actually going to read the article to see if it's just that. It doesn't seem to say. So I can't tell you exactly if it's just FIFA Ultimate Team or if it's all of EA's Ultimate Teams combined. But either way, for almost a third of your revenue to be from digital cards that have no value, that is fucking gross. And again, it comes back to the thing. It's like, look, I don't care what you do with your money, guys, but holy fuck. As a guy who has played MLB 19 The Show, and has done, like I said recently, the entire current day rosters without spending money. Like, realistically, the amount of money to finish that collection without ever using anything the game gives you is probably account to over thousands of dollars. But real value of all those things are zero. You can't sell these cards. You can't do anything with them. It's just digital currency. And the fact that so many people spend so much on this digital stuff that you cannot do anything with. You can't hold it in your hand and you can't give it to somebody else for a price. Almost 30% of their entire sales are coming from that? What the fuck, man? That's the reason why we don't get a lot of nice things anymore in this industry. It's because we've allowed companies like this to get away with this shit. I have no problem with you buying FIFA. I certainly have no problem with you, say, spending $5. If you spend, like, this is my thing. If you spend more than $20 extra on those microtransactions, you do not get the right anymore to complain. Even then, if you spend $5 on it, I don't think you should be complaining regardless. But if you're spending more than $20 on this shit, if you're spending more than a third of the price you spent on that fucking game, I don't know what to tell you anymore, man. Because I paid, in Canadian dollars anyway, I paid $80 to get MLB The Show. And if I spent $25 on digital cards, I'd be thinking, man, I just spent a third that I just paid for this fucking game for a handful of players on a roster that I don't even play all the time. Like, really, like, how stupid does that sound? But, you know, people do what they do. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you just shake your head at because you're like, man, how is that possible? Really, how is that possible? Quick thing, PlayStation 4 officially has shipped 1,000. Jesus, I'm making a million mistakes. I almost want to edit the podcast some days, and then I'm just like, no, because I like being very real and very, like, being unedited, and it has its advantages and disadvantages at the same time because you're getting me. The problem is you're also getting the other part of me that I don't like, which is the fact that I flub words constantly and say the complete wrong word at times. But it is what it is. I've had people actually ask, like, why don't you edit this thing? I'm like, I don't know, because, I mean, some people seem like, oh, you're just being lazy, you don't want to do any work. No, that's not really it. I kind of prefer it this way because it makes it seem like I'm talking to you rather than I'm acting almost in a way because I'm putting the perfect version of me out if I edit it out. I'd rather it just be a streamlining thing like this where I am going to fucking make mistakes. So regardless. But yeah, PlayStation 4 officially shipped 100 million units worldwide. I mean, I can't really say much about it. I just thought it was really cool to see that. It's always a great milestone to see, and it shows that, you know, obviously the console industry ain't dying yet, and hopefully that when the next one comes around, PS5 can hopefully ship 100 million as well. Or any console can ship 100 million, because I want console gaming to stay around, because that's where I like things. Because I don't have money to spend on a new computer, because I'm starting to find out this laptop, while it can still run relatively well, the quality is dipping that I can do. So yeah, I'd like to be able to play games in ultra high now, but I can't do that anymore. I could when I first got this thing, I can't so much now, and I don't feel like spending another $2,000 to do it all over again. But the last thing we have here, and it's not like a super controversial thing. It's just another funny thing. Like, this is what mostly this week has been. It's just been funny stuff. So GameSpot put out an article titled "Fire Emblem Three Houses developer have no idea why the series is popular in the West." And I could go into what the article actually says, but I don't need to go very far because I just find it so hilarious to me that continuously we see the Japanese developers have no idea why things succeed in the West. Almost like they're surprised that, like, especially in the case of Fire Emblem, because it's such a waifu-bait game, that they're shocked that people are like this in the West and would cater to this kind of thing. It's like, man, Japan, you don't understand. Like, there's 300 plus million people in the United States. I know that actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let's Google the population of Japan just for comparisons. So, population of the U.S., because I want to get that exact number. So, the population of the U.S. at current, as this is listed, this is from 2018, is 327.2 million. And let's see, population of Japan listed as of 2017 is 126.8 million. So Here's the thing, Japan. Without even getting into like any other specifics, the U.S. has almost triple your population. Don't be surprised if that there's probably a few that are just as weird and silly and honestly, let's be completely honest here, fun like you guys are in Japan. So you'll find people here in Canada like me who loves your shit too. The same goes for the States, where you got a lot of options there in people that could be interested in your wacky shit. And in terms of Fire Emblem, I mean, look at how things are now. Like here in the West, strategy is becoming a thing again. I mean, obviously games like Dark Souls, hard games in general are becoming a big thing again. So, games like XCOM, you had your roguelikes like FTL early on that were really going. And like I said, you have games like Dark Souls out there. So people are up for a challenge. And anime is also starting to translate better here, which means that waifu baity kind of games are going to also succeed here. And when you merge these two things together, so generally speaking, a lot of the people that play these really difficult video games are hardcore gamers. Hardcore gamers have a really good chance of also being fans of anime. Especially, when you're talking about anime that have very, very, very beautiful boys and girls. And Fire Emblem does that in spades. Let's not kid ourselves here. So for that alone, I'm not surprised at all that Fire Emblem is succeeding. But the other one that I think Japan just seemed to forget is that, that you kind of just keep releasing Fire Emblem games here now. Monster Hunter suddenly became more popular than it ever had, and that's because we've had Monster Hunter after Monster Hunter coming out. And then all of a sudden, instead of just being on the 3DS all the time, or the PS Vita, or the PSP, whichever it was, I don't remember, you finally put one on every device, basically. Like, you put them on console and you put them on PC. All of a sudden, would you look at that? It's going really well. Well, when you make it available to more people, and it's a series that people are now aware of, not to mention if you make a really good product, and that's what Monster Hunter World was, it's going to do well. I mean, Call of Duty has been trashed to a lot of people for a long time. They still make boatloads of money on sales. They still sell a lot of copies. It's a matter of familiarity with people. I guarantee you that each Fire Emblem game is going to get better and better unless they completely fuck the series over. But if they keep doing quality and getting better, it's going to make more money and it's going to make more sales. Any game you release, if the quality is there and there are people there that like it, they'll eventually pass it to more people and you'll get more people liking it. It's just straight business. I don't see why Japan is so surprised by this. I mean, you keep releasing games here and you keep releasing good ones, you're gonna probably sell. If you're sticking around long enough that you put out, like, how many games have we gotten? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We've had the original, which I think was Blazing Sword. We had the Sacred Stones. We've had Awakening, Birthright, Conquest. Well, we had the Fates like all together. We've had what is it? It's Path of Radiance and I think Radiant Dawn. If there's one I'm missing, there's one more I'm missing here, but Three Houses is a new one. So you're looking at minimum 6, if not 7. And again, I'm not counting Birthright and Conquest as separate things. I'm talking like just the series. But you're talking like a good 6, 7, maybe even 8, if I'm missing enough, fully separate games from the series here in the West, starting from the Game Boy Advance all the way to where we're at today with Three Houses on the Switch. It shouldn't be that surprising that you keep doing better and it's now getting popular because people have come to see, oh, you're sticking around and you keep putting out quality. So, I mean, from a business standpoint, I mean, I don't know what you're not seeing there unless you were just thinking that this kind of a niche product wouldn't sell, to which case, I mean, sure, but we like funky Japanese anime shit too. It's not just you guys anymore. Now that it's becoming widespread around the world because of, the internet and places like Crunchyroll and Funimation and Netflix and Amazon all having anime shows out there for people to watch, not to mention piracy has been doing what it's been doing for over 20 years. You're going to get this inevitability where you have a fan base now here in North America and in Europe and in other places around the world, and they'll continue to grow where they're interested in your stuff because they see that A, it's got staying power, and B, the quality is certainly there, and that's what it is, especially with Fire Emblem. So I just thought it was funny that they thought it was, so shocking that it did so well. So anyways, so that's it for all the stuff that we want to talk about. So like I said, I was going to mention a couple of things I want to do, and that's how we're going to end this off. So because I've suddenly had this real urge to want to do more. I mean, I obviously released a blog article yesterday. Just kind of a way to say hi, and it was partially because I was so energetic about just doing anything that I just kind of wanted to pop back into writing. I'm probably not going to do much of it if I even continue to do it, just because this is a lot easier. And I find for whatever reason when I'm at home, I can't blog, I can't type anything anymore. It bores me to tears. So at least with this, I can be a lot more clear in what I say and a lot more emotional about it. And there's no pausing. There's no need to spell check. I mean, I might flub a line, but I'll know right away and I'll just correct it and go. Because I've posted so many articles over the 3 or so years I've had that website up for. And the amount of times that I'll read them way later on, in the future and look at it and be like, how the fuck did I make that stupid mistake and not catch it? Because I'll catch them all the time. But because of the sudden influx of desire to create more stuff, I want to do a little bit more. So my plan, and I don't know when I'll record this, I'm aiming to have this up for the weekend, but I want to start doing a quarterly review of all the anime that I watch during the seasons that they air. So, for example, I've just finished watching at least all the episodes from 1 to 3 of each show that's come out so far. At least the ones that I'm watching. So I want to do that, which means 3 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from that, I would do another one for the midway point from the 6th episode. And then obviously 3 weeks later for one by the 9th. And then probably 4 or 5 weeks later because some episodes have 13. Or in even some cases they keep on going. So I would just say, well, here's where this episode's ended off and this is what I think so far. But for the most part, it's finales that I'm reviewing. So that's something I want to do. And that's what I plan at least on doing for now. I've said it before, once AEW, and that's All Elite Wrestling for all you non-wrestling fans, once they start going, August 31st is their last big pay-per-view before they go on television October 2nd. When they start on television, I want to review every episode. That I hope to do and can find time for. What I also want to do is to have a short, probably anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how much I talk, a series that's just talking about news in the wrestling business. And it's mostly stuff, again, that tickles my fancy. Just like the Radical Rant podcast has been since I've started this up. I don't want it to be me forcing subjects out. I want it to be stuff that I want to talk about, or at least things that got my attention and I know I can at least say something about. Because how it used to happen when I was, say, writing or when I was doing the Saturday morning soapbox, I was just trying to find anything that, I think people would find interesting. And I realized that was a mistake because it's hard to make people interested in what they find interesting when I make it sound like I'm not interested in it. So I'm trying to solve that problem, and that's what this podcast has been. So some days this podcast goes over an hour, some days this thing barely hits 40 minutes. And it's because within those 7 days, I might not have found so much, or I might have found a lot more than I normally do. Or in the case of this week, this podcast is almost going an hour because I felt like talking about a convention that I went to, and that took up over basically a half hour. So, sometimes that's how things work out. But that is my plan for the time being. So hopefully I'll have, by the end of the weekend, a quarterly anime review. I'm going to have this Monday coming up off because it is what we call civic holiday here, which is a stat holiday here in Canada. And I'll probably, maybe that's when I do my, I wish I was what I was, or I wish I was, I wish I was the person I was today 10 years ago kind of video. Maybe I do that then, maybe I don't. It depends on how things run when I get to that point. But that's at least what I have down the pipeline. That's what I plan on, and who knows, maybe I find more stuff. Maybe I do single topic videos again and go on like crazy with that. Who knows? There's so much that I can do, and I just haven't. I mean, it's only been a couple of days since this sudden influx of ideas have come to mind, so who knows what happens next week or a month from now. Who knows what I come up with. But for the time being, I've got a few ideas, and hopefully we can run with that and make this channel a little bit more active again. And who knows, maybe it keeps getting better and better, and I keep adding more and more stuff, and I start transferring more to this than I do with other things. Or maybe I try for a little while, it just doesn't quite work the way I want it to, and I don't have the same desire, and maybe we slow down again. I don't know, and I never know what the future is because I'm not treating this like a job. I'm not treating it as something I have to do. I'm treating it as something I want to do. And if I don't want to do it, I won't do it anymore. But for the time being, I'm absolutely enjoying doing this podcast. I'm enjoying having the ideas in my head that of things that I want to do, like this quarterly review, like the wrestling stuff. So hopefully, by the time we get to the following year in 2020, when we hit a new decade, maybe this will be a lot better. Maybe I'll suddenly have had an influx of subscribers. Maybe, consistently for 6 months we've been doing stuff, 2 videos a week. Maybe it's 3. Who knows? But I will never know until it really, honestly, it happens. So that's kind of how things are going to go for a little while, and hopefully we can keep this train rolling, because I'd like to, and I'd like to feel more amazing things like I did on the Sunday recently with both this fan art and with, honestly, a YouTuber that I've been paying very close attention to for the last few years actually feeling like I was worth a follow, which, like I said, feels like nothing to most, but means a whole lot more to me than it probably does to others. So with that being said, thank you for listening to this week's episode, and thank God I made it to 10 episodes when I thought that might have been done with YouTube altogether. So once again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see more content, don't forget to share this with your friends. If you want to keep this party going, and again, don't hesitate to comment on this podcast if you either got questions or if you got things you want to say towards the stuff that I talked about in this podcast. Even if there's things that I missed, like you say, like, hey man, why didn't you talk about this thing? I would always love to just hear more about this stuff, because I'm one person and I only have a certain area that I try to stick to when it comes to things that I look at, and there are obviously things that I'll miss. So you know what, if there's something that I missed, let me know. If there's any sort of comment you got, don't hesitate to leave it below. I'm always going to read that shit. I mean, obviously I'm at a small enough subscriber count that I don't really get a choice, because I'm not going to miss anything, because I'm going to only get 1 or 2 messages. So it is what it is. But yeah, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.